Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths in the field of consciousness. Their passion is to support your evolutionary growth and change. Join them as they talk about our individual and collective evolutions, explore what living consciously with energetic awareness means in our daily lives. Access with them a state of grace. There is no time, no space. Feel the warmth and acceptance and opening into infinite possibilities. Combining a broad collection of modalities and personal experiences, they share with humility and humor their appreciation for the body, mind, spirit connections that we call life. Now, here is Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, coming to you from Planet Portland.
Yes, hello everybody. It's kind of overcast here, but don't let that bother us.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And we want to let folks know right up front that if you're listening online, you can also listen by phone. You dial in at 716-748-0150, and you can listen to it on your phone. But if you want to talk to us live, you can call us at 888-627-6008. And that's for just asking questions and interacting with us live on the topic of what we're talking about tonight. So to call us.
Yeah. Which is what? What are we talking about tonight, Joan? I'm excited.
Okay. Today we are talking about anchoring and centering in your body. Mm. So as consciousness, we encompass multidimensional realities. And to fully experience and enjoy this one, we have to be anchored and centered in our body. So life wouldn't be as fun without a body to revel in physical pleasures. So we'll share some ways to be in this world and not of this world.
It's important. It is probably the basis for all of us because we certainly know what it's like when you're happy within your home, right? And our bodies are our home. And we are consciousness expressing in human form. And that's what we want to enjoy. Well, I spent a lot of time not enjoying my body, and I've decided to give that up.
So you're not giving up the body; you're just giving up not enjoying it.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Just checking.
That's what I'm
doing. Tom would probably like to know that.
Yeah. We have a lot. Oh, Tom, that would be my husband. Yes. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so a couple of other things to let folks know is that we are going to be changing our broadcast time and day starting in November. We're going to be moving to Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can still hear us on demand, podcast anytime you wish. But if you wanted to call in live, starting November, it's going to be on Tuesdays at 11 a.m.
And we're looking forward to that time. And we're going to anchor and center ourselves for there.
Yeah, right. I'm going to actually anchor and center myself in the present moment and just know that time is coming up.
Yeah, there we go. Because it's already happened anyway, right, Joan?
It's a different way of time traveling, yes.
You got it.
We don't want to confuse them about the anchoring and centering what we're talking about tonight. So
no, all right. So what else we got on there?
Okay, well, I'll just jump in and say a few things. One thing I do want to remind folks is that you can connect with us off the show by joining us on Facebook. Go to Facebook groups and look for Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can also follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. I have a lot of fun. There's a lot of activity on my timeline. And then you give us your suggestions of things for us to talk about. And we will mention your name on air and answer your questions on air. Also, I forgot to mention that we are also on YouTube, so there's lots of ways to find us.
There's lots of ways. And you've got all kinds of great meetups in Seattle and Tacoma and Lacey that you're providing now. And here in Portland, I'm doing one meetup. Mine meets weekly, so it's a great opportunity to drop into heart space and talk and experience consciousness and ourselves as we are centered within the field of the heart. So I heartily suggest all of you to check out our websites. We got great websites, and mine's at janetandbeyond.com. And there's all kinds of good things on there. And Joan, yours is what? Give them yours again.
Sure. If you go to my website, which is joan-newcomb.com, you can get a quiz to discover your passion and your purpose for being here on the website there. And you can also learn more about my meetups. I have a meetup in Seattle coming up this Sunday, which is October 25th. And then I have a meetup in Tacoma coming up on Saturday the 14th. And I'm hoping to have a meetup in the Olympia area on November 9th. We're just finding the location for that. So every month I have at least a couple meetups in different cities, but those are the ones I've got right now. Also, I have a couple of things that we're going to be talking more about anchoring and centering in the body, but if you want to actually have a podcast of or a webinar of those techniques, I have those for sale on my website. So you can go to Joan-Newcomb and find out about consciousness techniques. And you can also find out about accessing unseen help for your life, health, and business. And Janet, if they go to your website, they can get 10 Tops tips, can't they?
Yeah, for enjoying life, about being in this body of ours, and how what are those things to look for? I say 10, but there's always more than that. And you'll
because
get
you're a
plenty.
big giver. There's always 20. You say 10 and there's 29.
20, something like that anyway. So we want to invite all of you there are lots of different ways to be connected. We have our free conference call once a month. And if you subscribe on either of our websites or conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com, you can find out about getting those on that mailing list and those notices. And those are up close and personal kind of events, and they're a lot of fun. So we recommend that too. We just had a great weekend in the Tacoma and Kent, Washington area, and presenting consciousness techniques to people and interested listeners. And there's consciousness is a new concept for a lot of people, and we want to invite you to be curious and question about where you are in life. And we provide a forum for you to express those things. And we certainly saw that with people that had a lot of confusion about and wanting to look at things differently in life. And so we appreciate you out there listening, whatever time, space, and reality that you're in, and joining us. So thank you all. Okay, what we got cooking today, Joan? Where are we at?
Well, we will be talking about anchoring and centering in the body. We'll be sharing some information that we did share at a workshop in Tacoma and with the Boeing Parapsychology Club's meeting in Kent. So we will be tuning into that pretty soon. I wanted to also remind folks to be able to email us. Did we give them their email yet? consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com.
Yeah, we did.
So Janet loves to receive email. So send her an email. Tell her all about it. She really likes it.
I'm more than happy to write to anybody. That can set me up for some stuff I can hear. Okay.
Yes.
So, let's take our break maybe a little early.
Sure.
And then we'll get on to our subject when we get back.
Sounds great. So we're going to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about anchoring and centering in your body in the state of grace.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com. You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about anchoring and centering in your body.
We got two of the huskiest voice going. I love this, Joan. We're doing just great.
Yes, I'm just channeling Marlene Dietrich. Who are you channeling?
Oh gosh, I've been at this a little longer than you have. I don't know. There's probably a whole variety of people been showing up. That's for
who is
sure.
this?
So we're and you can see the value of anchoring and centering in your body, because when you get kind of discombobulated physically, it's helpful to call on those skill sets that we have. So you gotta. I think consciousness likes to have fun. We're all into that. Consciousness is lighthearted, effervescent, and you can hear, even though things are bopping around a little bit, we're still okay. And that's the key, right? It's about enjoying life, whatever shape or form you're in with it. So, do we want to drop into heart space first, and then get into the rest of it, Joan? Or where are you at right now, sweetie?
I was looking up the cast of Blazing Saddles because I wanted to describe you as Madeline Kahn.
I love Madeline. You're right. There you go. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I can feel that. Frankenstein. Oh, that was wonderful. Rolling in the hay. So, all right. So let's see. What else we got cooking?
I just want to remind folks, if they just tuning in now, that if you wanted to call in and join us and have a conversation with us about anchoring and centering in the body, you can call and talk with us live at 888-627-6008.
All right, everybody. So it's come to that magic time in the show where we just want to relax. One thing laughter does is it breaks up stuff. So that's always when you want to do any kind of healing, or it just get yourself laughing and stuff changes always. So let's see here. Let's bring our focus to being present in a really nice way, and wherever you are and whatever time you are, and whether you're getting ready for bed or you're in your busy morning or your afternoon drive, just notice what it'd be like to let go a little bit and still be okay, because you're present. Your body's fine. So let's see. What do we notice right now? So let's just put things aside. There you go. So the part of you that can sit and relax, or the part of you that can lie down, or the part of you that's up against the wall and just kind of slide. Oh, yeah. Okay, stand against the wall, everybody, in your mind's eye anyway. Just slide down the wall. There you go. There we go. And just notice your heart. Allow it to be a centering mechanism. Field of the heart. Very powerful place to be. And notice. Now, most often I have referred to is then step out. And I want to bring, Joan and I had a great discussion this weekend. And this is really about going more inward. And you may feel this more inward. So allow yourself to go inward this time. And notice that those rings, that emotional terrain. Because it's not about direction. There is no direction in consciousness. That's a human construct we have to anchor ourselves, center ourselves, or give ourselves a place to be. So just notice what it'd be like to open. I like that word. Open to your emotional terrain. There you go. And it doesn't matter what shows up, wherever you are in the moment, just acknowledge it. Go, oh, hello. See a visual, feel a color, hear something. And it could be many different things, because we're not just one emotion. We're usually a mix of things in any one moment. So, but we don't want to be attached. And our emotions are what power us. It's energy in motion. Emoting. Okay, so just notice what might be present. Frustration, fear, joy, thankfulness. Okay, and then go to the next, go to the next. And the core, the essence of all, where we're all one, where it's just information, it's just potential. So before things have formed, it's a state of existence that's not yet existing. Unified consciousness, source, universe, field of the heart. We'll use whatever term you want, where we're all one. And the more of us that are holding that awareness is invaluable. And the world is quite turbulent, and there's Global Awareness Day coming up on Saturday, where we're realizing that we're not separate individuals. We're sharing in a collective experience. So just notice what you notice here. This is the sacred, the quiet. And just enjoy and bring whatever you are to the party. Let it be here. All right, Miss Joan, what you got?
Well, I am noticing that when you talked about Global Awareness Day, that really every day could be Global Awareness Day.
Totally, it is, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Well, people listen to these podcasts at all different days and times and years ahead into the future, so you haven't missed Global Awareness Day.
Not at all.
You can be in the moment and have a global awareness.
Totally. Yep. So, let's talk about consciousness experiencing itself in a body. What do we want to do with that, Joan?
Well, I was talking about anchoring in the body. We were having a great conversation about anchoring and centering, and the difference between anchoring and centering.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it is two distinct things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the perspective that we are consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And as consciousness, we have created this world of physical form and created everything in it and created each individual body to manifest through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the opposite of us having a body personality or even an individual soul, and we're trying to raise our vibration to become consciousness. It's like, no, we already are.
We already are. Yeah.
And so there's a shift of perspective, and when you shift your perspective, it's really miraculous. It's really miraculously profound. And suddenly, you have a bigger viewpoint in the world. And I find that same way when we go into heart space. When you lead us into heart space, I have that same immense perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens with a lot of folks is that they're going outward to find consciousness and find the thing they're feeling like they're missing. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that they're having these expansive experiences, like they're having a 5D experience coming into this 3D world, and these expansion of consciousness. And so now more than ever, it's important to anchor in the body that you have to experience this physical reality through. Because the thing is that once you get out of the body, you're going to realize you've been consciousness all along. So it's not out there, and that's not the reason that we're here. We're not here to be more of what we already are. We're here to experience, physical reality, and I think you were saying this earlier. It's just, we're here to enjoy life, to have fun, to create in this reality. And you can't physically manifest in this reality if you're not anchored in reality. You can't. The manifestation doesn't have. It remains an idea. It remains a dream, unless you're home for the UPS, the Universal Parcel Service, to deliver to you.
Well, and we've certainly over the years met all kinds of individuals that aren't happy in the body. Trauma has set up, or emotional has set up, where they really have a sense out there, and they look down on themselves, but it's not as consciousness, it's as themselves separated from themselves. So it's still coming from an ego space,
Well,
from a
here's
wounded
another thing
space.
to add to that, Janet, is that
Hmm.
it's as consciousness, we are extremely capable and creative, and we don't have a sense of good or bad. So, if you create a lot of horrible things happening in your timeline, in your storyline,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
as creative as if you have a lot of wonderful things happening. So when
Yeah.
you're talking to someone and they're fetching about their life and this horrible thing happens and that horrible thing happens, and then you go, oh gosh, you really feel for them, so you start to give them helpful suggestions about how it could be better, and they're like, oh no no no, because my problem is really worse than that. It's because they're actually boasting as consciousness. Which is not, that's contradictory, because consciousness doesn't have ego, but they're boasting about how capable they are.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, the more capable of us have the more complicated problems.
Yeah, there you go. That's the truth of it. So, what do we want to do? We've got centering, and let's explain what that is, because that might be a little different terminology, but even between the two of us, and then anchoring. And
Right.
that's the challenge of language, everyone, is that you may use this term and hear something from your frame of reference, and it's the same word. So, we always are trying to be very clear about how we're using our language. And so, centering is, for me, my reference point, that everything does revolve around here, me, which is kind of contradictory to a lot of things. But I am the reference that has built around that. There's consciousness first, always, to me. And then I develop, you develop, individuality starts to show up in our matrix form. Consciousness is always present, though. That was there before I showed up, right? So that is, and as I
So
own
so
that.
Janet, yeah, but so
Hmm.
Janet, you just said that is there before I showed up. So
Right.
are you identifying with the I, or are you identifying with consciousness?
Before my sense of the viewer,
Okay,
right?
got
So
it.
there's consciousness, and then the viewer showed up. Right? And that's what this body's about. It's the filter for consciousness to experience itself in my particular matrix form. So this is my matrix. If I'm going to own anything, that's all I can. That's my ego that says this is what I am. So I'm clear about that. But as consciousness, when I hold that, then it's like, oh, look at what I created as Janet. So I think the language kind of goes back and forth, probably.
Yeah.
So it's Janet is having this experience, but it seems kind of displacing if I refer to myself that way all the time. you know? So so in centering, for me, I want to hold awareness between the heart and the first chakra area. And if you're into chakras, fine. If you're not, so the lower half of my body, my torso, my abdomen. And there's a reference of information that runs through that. That's centering to me, because I do deal with a lot of people that shape shift, or myself, I've even had that experience. And it was kind of unnerving to think that I couldn't get back. And I seem to, in my mind, and that's Janet's reference, I felt more comfortable when I realized it wasn't just one point out there. There was a reference of place to land. And so that's kind of centering to me. That's what I'm meaning in that term. Anchoring is in holding into that place. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
there is something, and then you anchor in. What I don't do in old reference anymore is use grounding so much in that terminology. So I like anchoring and centering much better.
So Jana, I'm curious, because you
Hmm.
used to channel, and I'm wondering, when you're
Oh,
talking about,
I
wait,
think we
you're
still
talking,
do.
so here, so your centering in the body goes from your heart to your lower
Awareness
abdomen, so to
color.
speak.
Right.
Yeah, and so what I'm noticing is that then there's no ownership or inclusive of your communication or your clear seeing or your knowing.
Oh, okay. So
And
it's a
I'm just wondering if
channel.
it comes
Yeah.
from
So for me,
channeling, right?
literally, it's a channel. So from top to bottom, right? So, but when I go to, okay, so this is the different references we're holding in that. So totally, I get what you mean. Okay. Because a lot of my training was, okay, if you're, if you're going to think about terms of your health, for instance, there's a clear channel through the middle of us, right? That's source. That's consciousness. Consciousness is there. Some of us have that as very finely defined, like a piece of wire, or some of us have like a pipe, and it's white and it's huge and a lot of split, and it's dynamic. It's that sign of the atom, you know, we all that old nuclear. It's dynamic in there. There's information everywhere. Stuff's bouncing around, and then it interacts with this matrix. That's Janet in there. So the center has always got information. It's always centering. So when I go more my sense of heart, it feels more like it's chest to groin. That, yeah, that's interesting. That's a good point you're mentioning. I'll have to look at where I'm holding that reference from. So that's
So
my story. What's your story?
okay, so my story is if your vehicle for this experience is consciousness in this lifetime is this body, then the anchoring part is like sitting in the driver's seat. And the centering part is, are you looking out the windshield? Now,
Okay.
I've and my original training was actually not to channel, but to channel myself, not to channel others. So, and the one of the flaws in the training was staying out of heart space. I think it was really meant to um, accelerate use of clairvoyance, but they forgot to bring back in the heart space. So what I find powerful nowadays is I use chakras as reference points, and so my anchor point for being in this physical form is the lower abdomen. It's just like it feels like a point of energy that is way down deep,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my anchor point. And I usually think of it as like a little dot of light that just anchors me, and it's a very effortless thing. But I've come to test out different other areas, and it's not just the center of my head, which between the ears, it's kind of around
Mm-hmm.
where the pineal
Mm-hmm.
gland is, but it's also heart space. And then it'll also be the area, solar plexus, your will kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and really what I feel is that as consciousness, I'm encompassing all parts of the body. So,
Right.
but this just brings me, it brings me more aware in form. And as I'm talking about this, suddenly I have this sensation of being completely centered in the body, and it's like an air traffic controller.
Yes. Yeah, see, because what I'm picking up, what we're really kind of talking about is directional still,
Well,
right? A sense of directional. When you anchor, okay, that means lower as opposed to higher, or centering. Okay, that's the whole spectrum, right? That we might
well, and the
embody.
thing is that as consciousness, there is no up or down or right or left. But
Right, right,
in
yeah,
physical form, there is an up and down and a right or left, unless you're on
right,
the space station.
yeah.
So that is part of the reason for anchoring into form and experiencing this reality. And the upgraded technique we were both talking about. Grounding is really an antiquated technique, and my experience with grounding, I'll still sometimes use it, but then I'll feel heavier, gravity will increase, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you come into form, and you feel all the discomfort in the body.
Mm-hmm.
But when I use it as reference, when I use reference points, um, and I use consciousness technologies, essentially, even though they're my creation, I've created a lot of consciousness techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I have this sensation of being within my physical form, and it's not painful. So I perceive that as kind of a 5D experience now. And there was one other thing I was going to tell you, because you said something and that was not accurate from my
Okay.
perspective. And I
Uh-huh.
scroll it back. What was that? Um, what were you talking
And
about?
that's what's fun because we have all these different
We
perspectives
come from different, yeah, we have
and
different reference points.
and
But
how do you unify these things? How do you be okay with it? Because it's all a spectrum out there, everybody.
well,
And
and that's the thing about, there's diversity in unity.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
totally.
and the whole, we are consciousness experiencing this reality, and as consciousness, it's limiting to say that consciousness is oneness. Consciousness,
Right.
it's expands all of this, and to
Right.
consciousness, everything is happening at once. So well, there is no time or space as consciousness, and
Right.
so all lifetimes are happening at once, and
Right.
all experiences are happening at once. But that's the challenge of being here in body. If you need to learn anything, it's about how to be in body, as opposed to being more spiritual.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Right. Right. But it's how you define the body.
Right.
See,
Oh,
because it is,
directional. We were talking about
yeah,
directions, and the
direction.
thing I
It
was
is,
going to tell you about my
yeah.
experience, we were just, you were talking about when you go into heart space, and I'll step deep, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just keep going deep, and you can do this with any of these reference points, but it's fun with heart space. You're in that
Mm-hmm.
field of awareness, and you keep going deep, and it's never ending. And you're like, well, aren't I going to walk out the other side of my chakra? Aren't I going to walk out the other side of my heart? It's like, no, just keep going deep, man, because it's a vortex in there. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Does Joan, excuse me, does that deep have a sense of, because deep for me
still is
would
directional,
be,
right?
yeah, sounds directional. But I think what you're talking about is going deep into the chakra, or I don't know. It's
It's
like,
not
it
a
feels
chakra.
like it's
That's
going
it. It's not a chakra.
right. It's like, but it's going across. It has a feeling of going across. That deepness is going across to some other side. We live on a planet, so you start someplace and you
Well,
go
so
through the
see,
planet or over the planet or something, but
and that's what happened. And what happened to me when I started to really embrace consciousness technologies is things, chakras stopped existing, and
mm-hmm,
there was no center of the earth anymore, and it was like really
mm-hmm,
freaked me out for a while, because I had been so attached to grounding, and I
mm-hmm,
felt that was my mission in life, was to teach everyone to ground, and it's like, oh, it doesn't exist anymore. So the thing that I sense with going into heart space is that we've got these portals to outside of the hologram. And in the old training about, chakras and energy flow and everything, is that it was all within this realm of reality. Even if it was unseen, your energy is flowing, and there's, unseen, there's, devas and angels and all that stuff. But all of that still is within this hologram. And when you step deep into heart space, it's like you're crossing that threshold to outside the hologram, where there's nothing but thought. It's creating form.
Well, what I'm struck with, and just I'm so enjoying your voice because I know you have this deeper resonance going on,
Smelly
and
cat, smelly cat.
it's just we spent the weekend
Oh,
together,
right.
and I've had a deeper resonance for a few more days than you, and and here's for instance about illness
Mm.
is in my particular flavor of it this time, it would seem to follow a pattern that I had 3 years ago. And I have refused to call it that, to allow it to be that. I've been calling it, no, I'm experiencing stuff. And in doing that, I'm using the opportunity that my body is providing for something else to happen. Right? I'm not invested in it being something. I'm allowing it to reveal something, which is interesting. That's a different viewpoint for me, or to me, in that. And that what I hear in your voice is this deeper resonance. And if that's a vibration, what it seems to feel like is that using that material, that physical state that's going on is taking us to a different place. And if I get out of the judgment of it and just allow it to be what it feels like without the labels on it, I can experience information at this place that I'm not experiencing when I'm not in this place. Does that make sense?
What were you judging? The judgment of what?
The judgment of what? About
you said, when I get out of the judgment of it. What were you judging?
Judgment of what? Oh, that it's illness and it might be bad or
I see.
something
Okay,
like
I
that.
get it.
Yeah. So, that,
What was that? Okay.
yeah, no,
you know,
because that's what we do. We go, oh,
right.
this is bad. No, it's
Illness
not.
is bad. Well, it's been fun navigating this because I will notice at times that my body goes into sympathy with itself. And as I am navigating this, I'm aware that I don't want to do that because then what I focus on, increases. And so I am having a fun dance with my body as it is moving through this experience. And I am doing stuff like drinking Airborne every 4 hours. And I've switched to, tea and with raw honey and whatever the story is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm opening to whatever this experience is. And I'm responding to it in the moment. What used to happen is I don't get sick very often. So I usually would walk around going, I'm sick. Like, I don't know what. And then somebody would say, well, have you taken something for it? It's like, oh, you take something for it? What do you do? I've had a headache for 3 days. It's like, so now I'm going, oh, I'm using some resources. It's like, oh, I remember, I took Airborne and I felt better. It didn't, and I'm also open to it, lasting as long as it lasts or ending early or whatever. I'm not skipping over the experience, I guess is what it is.
Yeah. And there's nothing to fight here.
Right.
Which is really a neat place. That's a new order as consciousness. And there's nothing to fight in being in my body. My body is working as it's supposed to. It came into some kind of informational base or of some sort. It's responding. I mean, isn't that what an immune system does? Immune systems don't fight. They just work efficiently. So if an immune system is working efficiently, it's dealing with what it's set to do. We can put labels of, oh, I got to fight this and I got to do this and that. And all of a sudden you've made it about something that it's not. The system encourages itself to handle things that come into its space. When I take that approach, it's much easier to be wherever I am. It's a warm and cuddly experience. I mean, I don't go to the extremes that I might have. I mean, last time I had something like this, I was down with something they called whooping cough, and I was in bed for 7 weeks, four times a day on a machine to breathe. And it's like, this is it. No, it's not. This isn't that at all. My husband's been very fun to play with because he's like, well, you don't have fever. I'm like, nope. And you're not coughing. Nope, except when I cough. And well,
you're not coughing except when I cough.
Except when I cough. I mean, I'm not having a pattern of coughing until I need to cough. And he's like, well, you need to take the pill, whatever those nighttime pills are. And I'm like, I don't do that stuff normally. And I'm like, okay, just to make him happy, I took the nighttime pill, whatever it was. Within 5 minutes, my nose was plugged up. And all of a sudden, I'm in the pattern of the illness that is engineered to work with. And I said, that's it. I'm not taking this. So there are different ways to be within ourselves and have our different kinds of experiences, and still it doesn't have to be what you thought it might be. Right? There's wisdom at work here.
Well, the feeling I was getting was like you don't resist the weather.
Yeah, right.
You
just can move it.
Well, true. And there is a game that you can play where you look at clouds and you break them up. And I have moved. I've been like driving through storm clouds and I've, created sunshine over my house so that when I got home to walk the dog, it wasn't in a rainstorm.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to try to. And so, yes, I remember we have collectively averted, hurricanes from moving in and stuff like that. But you're not spending most of your time resisting the weather,
No.
or actually you can't do it by resisting. You can't do it by resisting.
Well,
So,
that's the martial artist approach, right? You
yes.
don't resist. You just work with what comes at you, and you direct the flow into another space. That is the secret of those very successful martial artists. They understand that. Resistance. Give that one
It's
up.
futile.
It's futile. Yes. As they say in Star Trek. Yeah. All right. So what else are we noticing? How are we doing on time here?
Oh, it feels like we should be sliding into something somewhere.
Somewhere,
Uh,
sometime.
we got a couple more minutes before we do any
All right.
sliding
Got
away. So, today is the Back to the Future Day.
Really?
So there's been all sorts of comments on Twitter and all about hoverboards and things like that, because this was the farthest into the future, I think, that they went.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was fun. We saw some of those again last month. Huh. All right. So this is Back to the Future. Well, it kind of explains the way the internet has been working for us today, certainly. So. All right. So what else do we want to, is there something we want to share with our listeners, a technique, we'll call it techniques, about the difference in anchoring? You have a great one about holding all these different points. Let's get into that before we drop out.
So here it is. So here you are, you're in heart space, and presumably you're sitting someplace comfortably, and just tune in to the area in the lower part of your body, and imagine or just hold your awareness at an anchor point there. And I like to have it as like just a focus of awareness. For some people, it's a dot of light. Some people, they have like a little magnet there. And just notice what that's like for you. And you can use that as your anchor point. And then when it comes to centering, I invite you to have center points in your heart area where you currently are, as well as in the area between your ears, behind your eyes, right in the center of your head. Have a little dot of light there. And also have a point of light in the center of your solar plexus, just like your stomach area. And notice what that's like. And really, you can have your attention anywhere you focus, but and we're sliding into home here. So I just invite you to hold that awareness and notice what that's like for you, and notice what shifts or changes, and play with this throughout the week, and just remind yourself, oh, I think I will anchor. Where's my anchor point? I will center. Where are my center points?
I think what comes to mind is how we're familiar with the concept of the cloud of possibilities, the fuzzy photons, right? And that's really the way this is. You're anchoring in your cloud.
I don't think people are familiar with fuzzy photons, Janet.
Oh, they're not? Oh, my goodness.
Can you let people know in about 60 seconds or less?
Okay. Well, let's see. Fuzzy photons. It's really, we're photons, light, bits of information. Those are biophotons. And really everything you are is fuzzy photons. They're in motion. And when you observe, and this is from the science place, and I'm not going to do it well, but when you observe, then a choice gets made as to what you're observing. Something distinct happens, and one of those photons lands, and that's the choice. That's a really poor explanation. So, but we're really a cloud of possibilities, and until you observe it, does one thing show up? So in our work as consciousness, we're just all this information. We're these bits of light, biophoton, a little bit of mass, and following in patterns of resonances. So the fuzzy photons are where the magic happens. Nothing is yet. It's the potential. Nothing's yet set. So so there's a cloud of possibilities that we each embody about something. So when we're talking about anchoring and centering, maybe it's about holding in the awareness that we are in our cloud and that has no direction to it. So, but it does have a sense of someplace.
So I would invite people to also see that as you are anchoring, when you are anchoring, you are bringing yourself into a focal point, and that is actually where it's giving a place for your manifestations to be attracted to. So that's like the core of the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And why don't we hold heart space until we come back from commercial break, and then you can bring us out of it. So just stay in this delightful place, folks. We have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we've been talking about anchoring and centering in your body in a state of grace.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about anchoring and centering in your body.
Which is a whole lot of fun, obviously.
Yeah.
So everybody, just keep noticing what you notice. Lots of different ways to experience consciousness as yourself. And just be at peace with it. What if this was not what you think it was or feel it to be? And it's just much more. Then much more is possible. And in that cloud of possibilities of potential, there is other choices. So notice as you hold focus of just being present. And that's maybe why we kind of use that term in being present, because it doesn't have direction to it. It's just like, well, where is it? Well, it's right here. So embrace that idea of being present. And right in this moment, what do you notice that's different? I got a lot of upper backache I'm kind of tracking, so let's just see if we can get expansive. What if everybody's wings could open up? If you believe in wings. If everything could just relax, whatever you're carrying, you could put down. And just allow your head, which is that great rationalizing and reasoning machine, and sometimes feel separate from your neck, which is just your bridge mechanism. And just let them roll around and loosen up. There we go. And so just bring your awareness back inward a little bit. I guess we'll go inward. We'll give it a little direction. And notice the emotional terrain now and see what's there for you. Seems a lot calmer. Seems a lot quiet. And then just bring your awareness. There we go. So just bring your awareness to your heart, your physical heart, and thank it for beating. And thank the body for the blood flow from the heart. Your heart is the first organ that develops in the embryo as a fetus. So it's old. It's old. It's old. It's wonderful. We all have to have one. But they're doing amazing things with hearts these days. They have some new technology where they don't register a beat. They do something to it. I can't remember. Great shows are on. So just be back. Come to surface. What do you usually say? Oh, street level.
I say come to street level.
Street level. Joan says come to street level and just enjoy. That's all you're going to do today is just enjoy, whatever that might be. And if you're at night, just enjoy. It's lovely to be alive. All right, Missy, there you go.
All right. So, want to just remind folks that you can get in touch with us outside of Radio Land and Podcast Land. We are on Facebook, Conscious with Joan and Janet, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can find us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and you can email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. And then if you want to know about each of us individually, my website is joan-newcomb.com, and that's NEWCOMB.com. And I have information about the meetups that I have going on in Seattle, Tacoma, and Lacey, as well as I have a couple of recordings of actually webinars that if you want to know more about consciousness techniques, I've got one for sale there. And I have some books for sale as well. And I have other upcoming events happening. So stay tuned because I have a very special program that is opening up, and I will be revealing the details soon. How about you, Janet?
And my website is janetandbeyond.com, all spelled out one word. And if you sign up for a great blog, Joan writes on Monday, I write on Friday. No, it's reversed. I'm Monday, she's Friday.
That's a time and space thing you're having trouble with,
yeah,
right?
really. And if you sign up on mine, you get $25 off on your first session with me. And we get to explore whatever it is that comes to mind for you. And enjoying 10 points at least on how to enjoy life. So there's plenty of things to get involved with. We look forward to hearing from you at another time and place and space. But there is no time, place, or space. So here we are.
That was quick.
Yeah.
What you were talking about our email, our e-zines, our newsletters. And actually, if you go to my website to sign up for that, you also get a free quiz that tells you about what your passion and purpose is in the world. And Janet already mentioned her top 10 tips on hers. And did you mention again our Conscious Conversations conference call?
No, but you did.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We just had one on the 15th, and so it's usually the third Thursday of the month. So that would be the Thursday before Thanksgiving in November, before American Thanksgiving in November. And we also record it, but you have to register for the call to get the recording as well.
Right. We want to let them know that in a couple of weeks we'll be found at a different time and day, right?
That's right. Starting
November, which is in a couple of weeks.
Right. The first Tuesday in November, we're going to be on Tuesday mornings Pacific time at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
We'll give that a joyous check out.
And you can still access us, 24/7 on the bbsradio.com network, and you can access us on our websites and on YouTube 24/7.
So everybody, let's just notice where you're at. We'll notice where we're at too. It's so nice to be together. Every day is a Global Awareness Day.
Together.
Exactly. And the next time you hear our voices, they might sound a little different.
Hopefully ours will be a nice alto, but not quite a nice basso profundo.
So whatever is out there for you to observe today, just notice it in terms of, well, what if I was anchored in? What if I was centered in? What if I knew that this was a great experience to be involved in? Just look at different ways to make whatever you experience in life fun, agreeable, positive, enriching, and what you're not noticing. And that's a great place to be. So as you experience yourself as heart, if I was to notice what I don't usually notice, what would that be? Is really powerful. And if you just notice, then you're not relying on what you think you see, but you can be relying on all those sensory. If my toe could notice what I don't notice, what would that be like? And do it with your elbow. Do it with your nose. It's fun. You'd be surprised at how we track information, but we oh no, we reject it. The body's there to work with you. What if the body was a positive thing? It was useful.
So the body is a positive thing. It is a source of pleasure and experiencing pleasure and giving and receiving pleasure. And on that fun and happy note, we would like to thank you all for listening. No matter when you're listening, whether it's live or at another time, you are helping co-create this experience together. And you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And I would say, and for some reason I want to say welcome. I don't know. Maybe there's just something there.
Welcome
from heart to heart.
Universe, right?
Welcome to our world, right? And welcome to the world.
And stay tuned. Same time, same channel next week.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Thanks so much for helping to co-create the show. No matter whether you're tuning in live or listening on demand, you energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next Wednesday for another great show at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and 10 p.m. UTC.